Mike Disney, welcome back to the Sideshow podcast.
It's exciting to be back.
Oh man, we've had a bit of a horrible run here with tech, but anyway, third time's a charm. So hopefully this one pans out. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get through it. That's for sure.
We'll get through it. Yeah. So as we've already said twice to each other this morning, but no one else knows about that. The the last couple of episodes you were on, and during that recording, we were talking a little bit about price transparency. And at that point, you mentioned that part of your process over at CEO Warrior is taking the business owner and inevitably then for them to take their technicians through what you guys call the one truck exercise. And I sort of said, hey, whoa, hang on a sec. That sounds interesting. Let me throw that out to the group. And if anyone's keen to hear more about that, let's invite you back on the show. And of course, that's what's happened. Everyone was super keen to hear about that. So thank you for sharing your wisdom with us once again.
Yeah, we love it. This is a great exercise. I think everybody's going to have a lot of fun with this.
So essentially, at the crux of this, it's about how do you communicate to your team members the reasons why you need to be charging what you charge from the perspective of the business to avoid, I suppose, the animosity of team members thinking, well, they're charging me out of this much and they're paying me this much, and the rest is just to line the pockets of the business owner.
Yeah, I think really what it comes from, and that's pretty good depiction of it. But I'd like to kind of, I think the reality is a lot of the concerns of pricing, if we're overcharging, we're charging too much, or just the philosophy of a service expert that that's too much to charge, it comes from ignorance, right? And I think this is a great exercise to avoid that ignorance, right? Because they don't understand all the layers of insurance a business needs, all the layers of professional support a business needs, all the cost factors that go into play. Now, some guys have a good feeling for it, but in all reality, every time I've done this exercise, we have opened the eyes of a lot of people about a deeper understanding of the true costs of doing business. And so it's just a great exercise to get people acclimated to the clarity of why we charge what we charge, building in that discipline of confidence in them. We were talking earlier, Matt, about how the most important and impactful thing to conversion rate is the confidence of the service expert. Without a doubt, if they are incredibly confident, people are magnetized to that and they want to purchase and consume goods and services. And if they don't have confidence in the pricing, the customers will feel that in their conversations. And this is a great way to overcome that and really kind of dial into having exceptional people in your team. And I know that this all started from the conversation of how much should we share financially with our team. And I don't think there's a business in the world that shouldn't share everything. I think everything is up for consumption. I think it's how you deliver the messaging, how you support it, how you deliver it is really important. And I think this is a great way to kind of deliver why we charge what we charge out of the price book, how we came up with our sold hours, how we came up with the sold day concept. How do we really kind of think about our business in terms of being profitable, sustainable, and how can we do all the things that are necessary to improve the lifestyle of our employees by charging what we charge? And this is a great exercise for them to go through.
So when you say being transparent about like everything from a numbers point of view, are you talking about, well, this is what our net profit percentage is, this is what our net profit dollar value is? Like, are we talking about all that stuff?
I think everything. I think I would share everything with my employees. I want them to absolutely know above the line gross margin what they're delivering to the ownership group, and then I want them to know what we're doing with the money from an ownership and an executive staff. Are we putting more money into the business to improve their lifestyle? Are we, because there is a level of you have to take some money out. That's what you're in business for.
Sure.
But if we educate our employees as to the whys, they're going to have a much more profound approach to the day-to-day practice than if we keep them ignorant in a closet. You will never have substantial employees that work for you that move the needle in the way that that they can move the needle when they really truly understand the discipline of being a business owner and what goes into the financial responsibility of the business. I don't need them to be accountants. I don't need them to help me with tax code. I don't need them to, and quite frankly, net profit is one of those things we're all afraid to share, but it is really a true result in a report card of the business and how great it is. And so why wouldn't we share great news with our employees? And if I could get my employees to go, man, if we could just get to 25% net profit, how great would that be? I mean, aren't we one step closer to that?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I understand it takes a discipline. And I think the biggest challenge there, Matt, is the reason most entrepreneurs or business owners don't share that stuff is because they haven't, and they're ignorant on how to deliver the messaging, because the messaging is super important. We were joking earlier about, the owner's boat, and, that's what the line item ultimately leads to. And that's not the reality. I mean, obviously the owner's taking risk, the owner's taking a risk over and above what the employees are running under. But here's the reality. The business is put in place to make money. And if it can't make money, it can't be sustainable.
Yeah.
And if it can't be sustainable, nobody wants to work for a business that can't offer the next level training for them, or the next level package of benefits, or the next level paid time off, or the next level uniform, or the next level truck, or the underground.
Healthcare.
Yeah, everything that we utilize has to be paid for by the client. And if we could get our employees to understand the nuances of that pricing, I believe will improve that confidence, and then the conversion rates will skyrocket. The profitability of the company will improve, and the performance of the job itself will improve enough to create a next level of opportunity for the business.
So what we're going through today is the one truck exercise, which essentially breaks down, what it costs to run a truck and what you need to be charging it out at. Just going back to what you were saying just now about like making the numbers of the business transparent, how would you communicate that to a team? Like, would that be through some sort of dashboard or like a monthly meeting or?
Sure. We always did it at and I'll go back to Gold Medal Service we talked about on the last podcast that I used to work for, Mike Aguilera and Rob Zadati, who are our founders.
Mm-hmm.
I was the director of sales, and every quarter we had an all company meeting. And during that all company meeting, we would talk about the profitability of the business, how profitable it was, what the percentage of profit was, the impacts of the gross margin that the managers delivered, and what the ownership and executive team did to bring into the business. What did we use that extra money for? Did we buy more trucks? Did we buy more equipment? Did we buy a jetter? Did we buy better vacuum pumps for our air conditioning systems? Did we buy
hire a new team?
Whatever, specialty training for our team. We used to bring in people that would help our employees learn how to manage their own finances. And so that would be part of what we would talk to them about. Like holiday parties and all the things that we do have to be paid for by the clients. And if they're not, then we can't provide them. And so nobody wants to work for a shitty company that doesn't provide great benefits and great upside. But the reality is the customer has to support the business with that through paying the price that this business needs to be sustainable. And this is a great exercise to take your service experts that are out there running a truck that should be earning a certain amount each and every day, and let them really understand the impact of every line item of purchase. We don't have to get incredibly granular. Everything's for a purpose, but boy, does this open some eyes. And I've never delivered a one truck exercise that didn't change somebody's philosophy or thinking about how they should take on, the price and the concerns that they have in their head.
Sure. Yeah, cool. Well, let's jump in because I'm super keen to to dive into this. So for you guys out there that are listening to this, if you want to follow along, head over to YouTube, over to the SiteShed YouTube, because we're just going to be going through this it's an actual document that we're looking at here. If you're listening, you won't be able to see it. We'll try and make it as audio friendly as we can, but like essentially, if you want to actually go through it, head across to YouTube. And also while you're there, subscribe, of course, but then in the show notes, we will have this template available, so you can head across there and download it as well if you need to.
Just like you're saying, the Word doc, the document itself breaks everything down. So you can literally take this and do it with your team. I think it's a great exercise, and I think you guys will love it. And not only that, it makes for a great meeting. It makes for an energized, super connected, great meeting, because most of you guys are having shitty, boring, horrible meetings. Nobody wants to attend. And this is a great one that will open guys' eyes and put them in a position of success. So I hope that helps.
So, Mike, would you advise for the listeners and viewers out there that are watching this, if they get this doc and they have that meeting with their entire team, or are they having it with the technicians?
Yeah, I'm going to roll right through it. I would do it with, I would segment it. This particular exercise for me is just for the service experts.
I see.
And so if you, I would not share this with a CSR. It would be beyond her thought. It wouldn't understand for her. But there's other kind of things you can talk to them about: the impact of booking a call, one more call. You could run them through a different scenario. This will create the biggest, greatest impact in your business. That's why I think this is the most important one, because who's out there earning money? The service experts are, right?
Yeah.
And we need them dialed in.
I mean, that's really got me thinking now, because at those different levels, like you said, like you could essentially create something similar to this for the different departments, so they got an understanding of.
And here we go again, right? We do this with the CSRs, right? We talk about what's the power of booking one more call. If we do, how many of those calls turn into how many dollars, how many convert in the house, how many turn over to flipped leads or bigger jobs. We could do the math and we could understand that one more booked call per day for a company could really mean millions of dollars. And so this is a great aspect. This isn't about challenging thinking. This is just creating clarity and alignment. The two greatest things that create, when you don't have clarity and when you don't have alignment, guess what gets missed? Accountability. And so we want to create clarity and alignment so we can have accountability not only down but up, right? Because the manager's got to be held accountable too. And so if they get a great understanding to their team about how things work and everybody's aligned, boy, we're cooking with gas and we can really make some stuff happen. So let's talk about how I would use this.
Yep.
If you had a staff of 2 or 3 people, I would print it out, let everybody have a copy of this. We would do this collectively together. If you have a staff of 50 employees, let's say 50 service experts, break them into groups. Let's say we do a group of, you got 50 people. Let's make 10 groups of 5. Let's all have them call their business a certain name. And then let's come up with, and you may already know what your sold hour is. Write it right on the document so that they know what it is and so they can understand it. And we're going to run right through this exercise. So, but break it out into any teams. If you got a small staff and it's your 1 of 3, 1 of 5, do it together. If you have 50 people, break it into groups. Have a lot of fun with it. So here's the reality. We're going to create a scenario. And as we go through this exercise, we want you guys to think about yourself as a business. Think about your truck. Your individual truck is a business. Let's call it a name, whatever you want to call it. Have some fun. Let them play with it. Let's put up some parameters and some specifics so that we could follow along and they could really play along. So this is good. This is the scenario we're going to create a pricing structure off of. You are the owner operator, which means you're one guy in a truck. And you run the jobs every day. You sell the jobs, you order the parts, you do everything, right? And you are the only employee. You rent a tiny little shop, could be a storage shed, it could be a building, it doesn't matter. And you have family health insurance, right? Because that's something that matters. And if you're a business that's not providing that, you're not going to get quality talent. So you got to think about that. And if I kind of deviate from the process, recognize I'm just telling you what my thoughts are.
Sure.
You're working 40 hours a week, and we're going to assume that you're going to take 2 weeks vacation, right? And you don't work overtime because, you have to get home to the wife. You got to go take care of the kids. You got to get them to baseball practice. You got to get them to football practice. You got to do all the stuff, dance classes and all that. So you're working 40 hours a week. You're taking 2 weeks vacation. You rent a small shop. You got family health care for your family, and you are the owner, operator, and the only employee. Now, remember, if we work 40 hours a week times 52, that's 2,080 hours a week, a year that you're available to work. But if you take the 2 weeks vacation, you got 2,000, I apologize, you got 2,000 hours with just that. That's all you have to operate, right? So let's just talk about a typical day. We'll call this a work day, a day in the life, right? Like the Beatles song. So 8 o'clock, and I don't know if that's a reality, but let's just roll through it. 8 o'clock, you arrive at the shop. You popped by this coffee shop. You got your coffee, you got your Red Bulls, you got your cigarettes, whatever you need, and now you're showing up to the shop. You're scheduling out your day, and then you might have some people that you gotta make some phone calls because some people have called. They need some work. You're scheduling out your day today. So that, let's just assume that takes a half hour. If you're super efficient and you're on point and you don't talk to your neighbor and you don't, have ADD and forget about what you were thinking about, you focus, it takes you a half hour, you make your phone calls, you schedule your day, and you get out the door. Now you probably have to, because you're the only employee, remember, you probably got to stop by the supply house. You got to pick up some stuff. You got to pick up a water heater. You got to pick up a condenser. You might have to pick up some refrigerant, whatever it is you got to pick up at the supply house. And let's assume you've got the greatest supply house in the world and you can get in and out in 30 minutes. Now, I don't know about you, but over here in the States, that's a pretty heavy task, getting into a supply house at 8:30 in the morning and getting out by 9 o'clock. But remember, you're the only employee, so this is a necessity today. Now, at 9 o'clock, you got out of the supply house, you got to call your first customer and travel to their job. Now, you got windshield time to consider. I don't know how long that's going to take. Is it a 20-minute ride, 15-minute ride? You got to do some pre-report call to them, whatever it looks like for you in terms of your job process. You're going to do that. Now we get to the house. Finally, at 9:30, our morning is covered, and now we arrive at the job. And guess what we do? We're so good as the owner, we sell a job that literally takes an hour of wrench time. So we can bang out an hour of opportunity, and we sell that first job. And let's say we get at 9:30, we get there. Takes us an hour to perform it, and there was some time where we had to do some inspection. And then we had to sell some options or opportunities. So we sold that hour. Now we're leaving at 11 o'clock. So at 11 o'clock, you have to make some return calls because some people called you while you were on the job. Somebody needs you. You got some issues, and then you got to call your next customer, right? Because you're not done. Now you got to travel to that job. So now when you get to that job at about 11:30, because that half-hour window of windshield time again, you arrive at that job and you sell 2 hours of work because you're that much better from the first thing you did this morning. So now you're going to sell your 3 hours of work by 1:30. How awesome is that? And you're going to go at 11 o'clock, inspect, offer solutions, provide the 2 hours of work, and then you're solid. Customer loves you, left a great Google review, probably even gave you a tip, and you're awesome and set to go. Now it's time to take lunch, right? Because it's 1:30 and owners eat last. That's just how it works in the world today. And so 1:30 in the afternoon, and you're going to take a late lunch. Now, what do you do pretty typically? If you're like an American, you swing into Wendy's, Burger King, or McDonald's, you pick up a sandwich, you shove it down your mouth, and then you go to your next job. The reality is that's probably what you're doing too, because you don't have much time. You're the only employee. So now at 2 o'clock, because you had your lunch, you've already sold 3 hours on the day, which is fantastic. But now you got to return more calls. You got to restock your truck because you probably used a bunch of fasteners, or you used a filter or a thermostat, something off your truck. You got to go restock that. And you, because you got a little tiny shop and you're the only guy, you got to go to the supply house to do that because you don't have inventory yet, right? You don't have inventory in the building. You don't have any of that stuff. So you go back to the supply house, and they love you to death because you're there 15 times a day sometimes. And you are at the supply house till 2:30 because it takes a half hour to get in and out at best. Now at 2:30, you're traveling to your next customer. You sell an hour of work. Maybe it's a diverter cartridge for a shower, and maybe, I don't know, toilet flapper involved in that too. So you sell an hour of work, boom, 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 3:45 hits. And now you're like, awesome, I sold 4 hours on the day. With one truck, 4 hours is exceptional if it's priced appropriately. Now, at 3:45, you got to kind of end your day, but your day just doesn't end. You don't get to leave. You got to make sure you're manicuring tomorrow. You got to make more phone calls. You got to review your marketing. You got to handle any price complaints that may have come back, any callback issues that may have. And then guess what? You got to get home because you got a responsibility to get home. So as you think about your billable hour, the time period during the week when income is produced is total billable hours per day, per week, per year. So we're just going to make it pretty simple, and we're going to call it we're going to call it 2,000 hours, right? So we're going to look at our total opportunity as 2,000 hours, and we're going to say we're 50% efficient. So we can literally bill half of that time. So we're going to have an expectation that we're going to have 1,000 billable hours,
which is
right?
Which is like 4 out of the 8 hours, essentially.
Exactly. So we're and let's be honest, Matt, in all reality, most companies are far from 50% efficient. You're just far from 50% efficient when it comes to a guy in a truck. And that's not a slight on the guy. It's just windshield time and supply house issues and faulty equipment or crazy expectations that some of the customers may have, or our inability to get financing running for them. And there's all kinds of caveats to it. So you guys can come up with some billable hours based on that stuff. And we look at that 4 hours per day is 20 hours per week times the year, 50 weeks. We kind of figure it out, and we're going to give you 50% efficiency. And we're going to say, we're coming up with $1,000 billable hours. So that is the opportunity that you get to literally charge your customers billable opportunity, and that's where you're going to make your money. So now let's go, if you want to, let's scroll up a little bit and let's go into some real stuff. So now we've got them understanding we got 22,000 opportunity hours. We've broken that down. Our efficiency allows us to have 1,000 of earning capable hours. And now we go, well, let's think about where the money goes, because this is going to give us real dialed in experience of how we do it. So let's ask everybody on the team, what would your owner's salary be? Now, I'm going to tell everybody, I lead with this should be $100,000. Now, I'm in the US, so whatever that comes to, I think in your neck of the woods, that's probably a little bit more. Now, here's the bottom line. If you can't make $100,000 in your own business, stay working for somebody.
Right.
And so that's why I want the owner's salary to be $100,000, because I think it's necessary. Now, every one of these costs, so you know, should be based on a 12-month experiment. So it should be an annual basis. So if you're going to make $100,000 a year in salary, that sounds really good, right? So let's just throw it out there. We got $100,000 in salary right there. Now, Matt, I'll ask you, since you're a marketing guy, how much should I spend? I'm a one-man show. I got to have somebody managing my Google because I don't have time to do it. What should I be paying for that on an annual basis, you think?
Well, on an annual basis?
On an annual basis, yeah.
Oh,
remember, this is all based on 12 months. So if I spent, would it cost me $500 a month? Oh, would that be possible?
I mean, you wouldn't even be you wouldn't even be touching the surface if you're doing digital advertising for that.
Yeah. So give me
I mean, if you want to be competitive in a big city, I mean, you're going up against companies that are spending like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. You know, we're wanting to at least budget, you know, probably remember, five. Let's say $5,000, $5 or $6,000 a month. So 6,000.
Now remember, this is one guy in a truck who doesn't really understand, and he just wants some kind of impact. So we'll remain incredibly conservative.
Okay, well, yeah, let's do $1,000. Well, okay, for all advertising, let's just bundle it all, 500 each. There you go.
Okay, so we'll do all advertising. So that's going to cost us $12,000. You're good with that?
Yeah.
Cool. Now, because you're one guy in a truck, do you need an answering service?
Well, do you need one, or should you have one?
Well, no. I mean, like at the end of the day, after you've worked a real solid, heavy day, you don't want to be answering the phones at night, right?
Absolutely not.
So you're probably
and you probably shouldn't be answering during the day either.
Yeah, right. So you're probably going to pay a company to do that for you.
Yeah.
So what would be the cheapest answering service you could find, even if it's paying Aunt Millie to do it for me? She could answer. She's like juggling the kids.
Probably $300 a month.
Okay, so $300 a month. We're going to look at that, and we're going to call that what, $3,600 a year? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to have some bad debt, right? You're going to have some things that happen where people don't pay you. Believe it or not, you won't collect money in a house, and your good friend of years will tell you he's going to give you a check next week, and you're going to be like, yeah, no problem, just whenever. How much do you think in an annual basis is bad debt for a business like this?
Maybe 10 grand, 5 grand.
Let's be conservative. We'll call it 5 grand. Everybody loves him. He's one truck guy. We'll call it $5,000, right? So it's $5,000 he's going to lose two water heater jobs, let's just say, that were pretty inexpensive because he got stiffed by a couple guys. Now that happens, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to consider that stuff. Now we got some bank charges. Now you could consider all these, but be conservative. We don't want to go overwhelming and worry about all the different nuances of credit cards. And you got credit card fees that are further down. These are just simple bank charges. Could we say 500 a year because we have
Yeah,
minimal?
totally. Yeah.
So we'll say 500 a year. Now we got to pay an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're not accountants. We don't do taxes. I don't want to do any tax reporting or any of that stuff. I pay a guy to do it. What do you pay? What do you think the cheapest accountant in Australia would charge us on an annual basis?
Oh, you're probably up maybe 2.5, 3 grand.
On a year. So we pay 3K a year. Love it. Now, so we've got a bunch of things considered, guys, following how much money we're spending. Now, if we have callbacks, anybody have callbacks? What do you think we could put a dollar amount on our callbacks for one guy in a whole year? What would be the impact of that to the bottom line? How much would that literally cost us?
That's a negative
And
number,
I'm
right?
not talking about lost opportunity. We've already figured that in our efficiency. What do you think? He's probably really good because he's one guy. He's probably really tactical, excellent. But
so let's say maybe he gets maybe one callback a month or something. Would that be realistic, or is that?
I mean, he's running three jobs a day. So we get one callback a month. He's exceptional. It's 12 a year. Let's say they cost what? Could they cost $100 each?
Well, I mean, it's hourly rate, right? I mean,
yeah.
So I'd say it's probably more closer to $300 or $400 each.
Okay, cool. So if we do that, we'll just call it.
So let's say, yeah, 1,000, maybe $800.
Okay, so
well, a month.
yeah. So let's just be conservative and say we'll give him a $5,000 cost for callbacks.
Okay.
Because we're going to think he's exceptional. It's one guy in a truck, right?
Sure.
Because if you're in one guy in a truck and that's all you got in your company, you better be exceptional. Now, cell phone bill, what's it cost you? I have a lot of kids. So I just paid my cell phone bill today. It was $390. How much would the cell phone bill be for this company?
Well, if it's a one-man band, maybe $150 a month.
So let's just call it even. Let's call him $1,200 a year. How's that?
Sure.
He probably has a computer, right? He's got to do some stuff. He's probably working with Fiverr, sending them information for his social.
He'd have an internet bill or account, so that'd be
I think
probably $100. Oh, we got that as well, do we?
Yeah, we got that further down the road. We got all kinds.
Okay, so computer expense, let's say might cost him $2,000 every 3 years. So say, I don't know, let's say $700 a year.
Cool. We'll call it 500 just to call it even.
Yeah.
Credit card fees are brutal. Yeah.
Can be.
Yeah. So we're talking about, what do we think his credit card fees could be? Let's assume he's doing 4 hours a week, 4 hours a day, credit cards per day. I don't know. What could he be paying? He could 2%. Be paying 2% of that.
1.5%.
Yeah. So is he paying a week? He could be paying a couple $100 a month. He could be paying 800.
Yeah, probably.
So let's just call it that. How about the customer chiseler fund? All the people that want to knock you down in price, all your aunts, your uncles, your neighbors, everybody that plays football with your kid, everybody you go to church with, all those people want to knock you down. Let's just give this, because you'll say this won't happen. I know you guys will, but you will find a time to serve somebody. So I'm going to be conservative. I would probably say $1,000. Matt, what do you think you would say per year?
Yeah, maybe. Well, that old, hey, do you want to come around for dinner? Oh, by the way, can you bring your toolbox with you? That situation.
Yeah, no, we don't bring toolboxes with us anymore. Let's just call it $1,000 just to be comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine that you're charitable. Now you may not be, but you probably are funding something locally. Maybe it's, helping with a park cleanup, or you're doing some things, or you're just giving money to a charity. That could be pretty insignificant, or it could be pretty, depending on your your approach to that could mean something. Could be $100 it could be $100 a month you give, could be $50 a month. What do you think it would be on average where you guys are?
Yeah, yeah, it's probably 100 bucks a month if you level it all out.
Cool. So let's say 1,200 a year, because that's pretty awesome, right? You give $100 to whatever charity it is. That's pretty substantial. If everybody did that, would be great. Now, dues and subscriptions. This is kind of that thing. Do we belong to any groups? Do we belong to PHCC? Do we belong to, ACA? Do you have any groups and industry organizations where you guys are that you may want to? For us, if you wanted to belong to, like, let's say ACA, it costs a couple $100 a year, so it's pretty insignificant. PHCC is a few $100s a year. I would imagine over in your neck of the woods, it's much of the same.
It's pretty same. It's pretty similar. Yeah, there's master builders, master plumbers, master electricians, that kind of thing.
Well, let's just say 300 a year. Is that fair? Now, to do whatever you're doing, you probably got to be licensed. So you probably have some continuing education you have to do. You have to pay for some education and training for new things. You probably can't leverage the supply house, even though they love you for everything. You probably have to pay for some of it. So what do you think educational expense could be?
I mean, if you have a coach, does that come into that category?
Well, that certainly could. Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to create that, if you had a coach, you could, because I don't have a coaching organization in here. But just think about the general expenses around education. Like, even if you had to like
Industry Magazine, for example, or something like that.
Yeah, well, if you're in the States, you have continuing education that you have to pay for to maintain your master's license. And so I don't know what that costs, because I'm not a master plumber, I'm not a master HVAC guy, but that has a factor to it. Just give me a number you think.
Let's just say $500 a year.
Okay, cool. That seems reasonable.
I think most of the associations put those nights on for you, but anyway.
Yeah, but there's still some consideration, right, of what that looks like. So, so now we're at the position where we have to figure out what gas costs to run the truck all over the place. So I'll defer to you, because I don't know what you're paying per gallon or liter, whatever you guys are calling it where you are. What's gas do you think on an annual basis for one truck?
Oh man, that's a good one. So I mean, it costs us it's close to $2 a liter, which means, I mean, I couldn't even tell you, to be honest. I don't know how many kilometers an average truck would travel. If you say roughly, maybe conservatively 500 kilometers a week at at $2, so it's 1,000 liters.
Let's break it down. How many times do you think the truck hits the gas, the petrol station every day?
Maybe every day? Oh no, no way.
Two times a week, 3 times a week?
Yeah, maybe twice a week.
So how much you think they're paying per visit?
Maybe paying, I reckon, 80, or maybe more, maybe $90 a visit.
So let's call it $200 a week. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So if we just give it the average, we could say it's $800 per month, right? And so we would look at that as a $1,600. No, that's wrong.
896 roughly. If you times it by 48,
it'd be about 9,600 for gas. Sounds about right. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. So we're almost 10 grand in expense. Now, remember, you got a family and you got health coverage. What does healthcare cost where you guys are for family?
Yeah, it's not cheap. It's like, it's probably about $350 a month for your family.
Okay, cool. So cost you about 4 grand, 4,200 a year. So it costs us 4,200. Now we got to have insurance for the truck, right?
2 grand.
What do you think? 2 grand a year?
Yeah.
How about insurance, contractor's insurance or general insurance?
What is that? I think that depends on the brackets over here, but I'd say maybe is that like, because we have public liability and public indemnity, that kind of thing?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's about 4 grand maybe.
Let's be conservative. Let's call it 3,000. Just even it out. Now you got umbrella insurance. Now I don't know if you have that coverage where you are, but it's over and above, right? It's very insignificant in comparison, but you got to have it to secure some bids and get some work. Is it okay if we just give that 1,000 a year?
Sure.
Cool. Here it'll be a little bit more, but we don't want to split hairs. Now, workman's compensation, how does that work for you? Is it a percentage of payroll?
Yeah.
So what is the general thought around workman's comp for a business like that? One guy making 100 grand, how much you think that would cost per year?
So we also have here superannuation deductions as well.
Yep.
So I mean, let's say if you, it's probably close to 20% of the salary, all up with all that stuff.
With everything, all of it together.
Yeah.
So so we'll be real conservative. We'll call it $1,000 for workman's comp.
Well, no, I'd call it more than that. If we're incorporating super, which you haven't got any. Oh, you do have 401k. Okay, never mind. Yeah. Yeah, let's call it $1,000 then.
Okay, let's call it $1,000.
Yeah.
Legal expenses. You may have to have something happen. Somebody might have to draw up a contract. You may want new contracts written up. You got a lawyer you pay for. Somebody might actually sue you because they believe you took advantage of them. So you may have to have some legal step in. How much do you think that might cost a year?
I should be asking you that as the American. I don't know, maybe a couple of grand.
Yeah, let's be conservative and call it a couple grand. Let's say you're really good, nobody ever sues you, but you do have to control some things. You have to have some people come out and pay
contracts and stuff.
Yeah, you got to do that stuff. Office supplies are pretty insignificant. Let's just assume that the neighbor lets you use their stapler, so you don't have to pay a whole lot of stuff. But what could office supplies be? A couple $100 a year?
Yeah.
Do you guys? I would imagine payroll company is pretty insignificant, but it's probably a weekly charge to have a payroll company do it.
Is that software or is that a company, like a bookkeeper?
This would be like a company that would physically do the deductions, send the taxes in, and separate
about $500 a month for a bookkeeper.
Okay, so that's a bookkeeper and everything.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
So you're going to say that we're probably around 6K for that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Payroll burden. I won't stink that up because we got some taxes and all that other stuff down there. So I won't confuse that, but that would be like what you're paying on everything over and above what comes out of the check.
Mm-hmm.
How much are we paying rent for that little office space we got? What do you think?
$1,000 a week.
1,000 a month?
1,000 a week.
Really? So rent's pretty expensive where you guys are.
Yeah.
So
especially if you got a workshop.
So we're talking about 50 grand a year,
mm-hmm.
48,000 a year.
I mean, if they're one man band, they're likely running it out of home, but yeah.
Well, some guys will have a little shed, right? They don't want no pipe at their house. They don't want their truck, can't park their truck in a homeowners association or something like that.
Yeah, well, maybe let's say conservative then. If it's a little shed, let's say $500 a week.
Okay, cool. So we'll cut that in half. So we'll just call it 25K a year.
Mm-hmm.
How much you paying for a 401k retirement? How much you gonna put away to save?
It's 12% of the salary.
So we're talking 12K.
Yeah.
Because he's making 100 grand. Do we have tablet expenses in the cell phone bill at $1,200? Can we just omit that, or do we have to add? Because you're gonna have to have a tablet to run in the house and offer options. Yeah.
Yeah, you could probably include it with the computer costs, maybe. I mean, but of course, there's the was a tablet expense the software you're running, or is that IT?
Nah, that would be IT. So like if you had Service Titan, or if you had
right.
Edge, or you had House Call Pro,
right,
one of those three operators, and I know you guys have a couple different ones where you guys are.
Yeah.
So we'll include the tablet expense with the computers and the cell phone. So we'll even give you a break there. The IT expense, how much you think that is? That could be Microsoft, it could be Outlook, it could be all the different
things. Let's say $200 a month.
Okay, cool. Got it. 2,400 a year. We got tools and tool repair and replacements. What do you think that costs a contractor per year?
Depends if it's them using their tools or someone else.
Well, it's one guy, so he's gonna have some things break, but not too much, right?
Maybe tool repair replacement, maybe $1,000.
$1,000. Okay.
Well, I was thinking if you broke your Jetta or your
yeah, if I mean,
drops
if
your
you have to,
locator or something, you know,
yeah, then you got some
have to
challenges, right?
recalibrate your dumpy.
Yeah, and you got to make sure stuff's working. Travel
Mm.
and entertainment. Let's just assume you're not going to do any of that.
You're
Is that
not?
fair? Well, you could. I mean, your accountant's going to tell you to utilize certain portion of it. How much would travel and entertainment matter to you? What would it look like?
I think probably $1,000 a year.
Okay, a year.
You might have
Okay,
an annual Christmas party with your wife or something.
yeah, you might buy lunches for yourself out of the business every day.
Yeah, oh, there you go. Yeah.
So let's just call it 1,000 to be comfortable.
Mhm.
Anything in the truck needs to be repaired. What do you think that costs a year? Tires, brakes, oil changes. Give me an idea. What do you think?
Couple of grand.
So could we use the truck is paid for, or do we have to? What's the payment for that?
The truck as payment.
Yeah. So like, do you bought the truck? Cost about $50,000. Are we paying that monthly, or did we pay it off?
Oh, I see. Um, Probably pay it off. Oh no, you probably pay it monthly. I think a lot of guys are a one-man band.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're
Because
gonna pay month. So what are
yeah,
we gonna
so,
pay?
so you probably pay 1,500 a month for that, or maybe 2 grand a month.
So 2 grand a month. So can we call it 24K
Yep.
for the truck itself? Because it's
Yeah.
probably a badass truck, right?
Mhm.
Any unforeseen items you think? Anything you can think about that we forgot about? Anything that
Um,
might?
like branding, uniforms, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, we got
Oh,
uniform service and we
oh,
got
that's down
utility
there. Okay.
next, but they're just
Signage.
one. Yeah, so we might want to throw out something like 5,000 for that because we're gonna have some unforeseen stuff.
Get the car wrapped. You know.
We might actually have to move, right? We might
Mm.
have to move out of one space to another because the landlord wants to raise the rent. We're gonna have to pay to move. We're gonna have to do all those are unforeseen things, right?
Hmm.
We might have somebody break into our place and steal all of our equipment. We may have to buy it all again, right? Somebody might come in and take our jet, or somebody might come in, take a snake, might take our toolbox. We might have some challenges. So unforeseen stuff, I'm going to call it 5 grand because there's way more to that than there is to a lot of the other stuff.
Hmm.
Uniform service is pretty insignificant. We could call that what, 1,000 a year, 500 a
Oh,
year.
yeah, 500.
Yeah, I mean, let's just assume he's a one-man gang. He's washing his own stuff. He just gets them to
Yeah,
produce it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then the utilities on the little bill on the little building might be insignificant too, right? $100 a month. We'll call it 1,200. And I know I'm being incredibly conservative. Yeah.
Hmm.
So now, so give me what you're thinking, Matt, as we ran through this exercise. Does it seem like there's just way too much expenses,
Not
or does
really.
this
I mean,
seem real? Does this seem realistic for you, knowing what you know?
I mean, it probably seems a little bit unrealistic, a little bit less than in truth what it would be out here.
Yeah,
But
and
and it,
that's really what I wanted to do is put you in a position to have conservative numbers so
sure,
that you don't think that we're far reaching, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
what I want you guys to do is have a realization of what things really cost today and how it really matters for us as we go through this exercise. Now,
hmm,
what we're going to do now is we're going to tally it up. We're going
hmm,
to understand what is every single one of these costs that we have, because this is pretty substantial when you think about one guy having to pay all of this stuff. And that's
hmm.
what you guys are. You're one dude paying for everything that's on this sheet. Um, and this sheet will populate for you guys. I just hope that I do the math right. But either way, I think we're going to come out with a really good opportunity to understand where we're sitting. And so, Matt, do you get a good feel for where I'm going with this?
Yeah, and I suppose now, is it the same like when you're incorporating multiple team members? Is it a matter of multiplication essentially? Like you're saying, we've got 5 trucks, we 5x this, because there's obviously some things in there that like uniforms and things like that, which, or some things you'd be able to buy throughout a company, which would, mitigate some of those costs. For example, if you've got 3 guys, you may still only be running out of the same little shed where you store your pipe. So it's not really, it's not going to be per individual. The costs come down as an aggregate.
No, the cost can come down, but since we were incredibly conservative,
Okay.
I think we've got all that covered in. So
Okay.
this is one guy, And if I did the math, we are incredibly conservative, because here's what I do now. That 9,600 we allotted for fuel, that could be 12 grand like that. That could be 12,000 like that. You guys will be in a position to where your insurance agent will call you 1 year and say, do you want to renew? And he just sent you in the mail 30 days prior an invoice that doubles what you paid the year before in insurance. Now, I don't want to scare you guys, but I want you to recognize how business really works. Your phone bill will only go up in price. Your customers that chisel you out and want discountings will only magnify as you grow and scale. Bad debt and people that won't pay their bills will only magnify. People that do chargebacks on credit cards, the answering service will only be more expensive. Legal, lawyers, we put $2,000 down for lawyers. If that wouldn't cost you 20 grand, I don't know what would, but we're being incredibly conservative. Based on all of that, that puts us at $237,000 and $700 for expenses for one guy. That includes his salary, which is really incredibly conservative. So for him to make zero profit, his sold hour will be $237.70 per hour. And that's for him to make no money other than his salary. Zero. So we would take
have no buffers.
And if you have a massive problem, like your legs get broken and you can't work, you're in trouble. You're in massive trouble. And so if the workman's and you're an owner of the business, so I don't know, I mean, can you even get workman's comp on yourself as being the owner of the business? So there's all kinds of caveats to it. But let's just figure out the math. So we got 237.7, and we are going to come up with a $237.70 hourly rate. So now that's our break-even price, right? So we got 237.70. Now, if we wanted to divide that by 0.75, that would give us an hourly rate of $316.93. Now, why did I divide it by 0.75? Because I want the business to be 25% profitable.
Okay.
So I look at break even, $237.70 is zero profit, no profit at all. That just pays the bills, pays the salary, and we can come to work the next day. But the business is not in business to not thrive and have profitability, because guess what happens? We can't go reinvest in new software. We can't buy new product. We can't buy new tablets. We can't get new cell phones. We can't get new trucks. We can't get new uniforms. So if we don't have profitability, we have what? We get stagnant and we can't improve and grow and scale. So if you think about what your hourly rate is in your business, think about this, guys. If you owned your own truck, you would have to bill $316.93 per hour for every hour you are on the tools. So when you think about 50 employees in this company and 50 trucks that they all drive, and the support staff in the CSR room, and the dispatchers, and the warehouse room, and the permit clerks, and the management staff that has to manage and mitigate all those challenges that come along the way, and then the marketing and the advertising and the growth and the scale and all that stuff. Just do some math based on you, one guy at 316. If we had 50 guys, what would that look like per hour? Yes, costs will go down because we could buy in bulk and we could have it cheaper, but there's still an inherent improvement to that. So just think about that. When you're hearing companies say we charge $700 an hour, it's because they have to. It's because they have to create sustainability. Because look, here's what the clients need more than anything. They need a company that will be there when they need them. And if you don't charge the right pricing, you will not be there when they need you. And you will, if you don't charge the right pricing as a service expert, and you don't have the confidence to charge the right price as a service expert, you will not create the lifestyle that you want and that you demand out of being a plumber, as an HVAC tech, an electrician, and all the great work that we do. There's a price to be paid. The beauty of that is if you do exquisite work and you stand by if you do great work and you do great opportunities inside customers' homes, they don't care what the price is as long as everything's done right.
Is
but
this
they
like an exercise as well? Like in the interest of transparency, is this something that you would communicate to a customer?
not necessarily the breakdown of break even, not talking about net profit at 25%. I wouldn't talk to them about all that, but there is, and we do offer a letter. It's funny. I have a lot of clients that get frustrated when people call back with pricing concerns, right? Because usually what happens, and this is no disparage to anybody, husband or wife that's in the home, but usually what they do is while they're in the home, they want the problem fixed, and they say yes. And when the significant other comes back, they're like, "You paid how much?"
Right.
Then they call the office and they're like, you charged me $3,000 for a water heater. What were you doing? Just taking advantage of my wife?
Right.
And then the reality is he didn't understand that the towels, the wipes, the wire ties, the valves, the solder joint, the trips to the supply house, the pan, the sensor, the safety, the permit, the truck, the fuel,
Mm-hmm.
the insurance. Like we have a letter for all that, but in all reality, when people have really great conversations and they provide the value in what they're doing, they don't have to get so granular. And I promise you, when you have service experts that run through an exercise like this and have a real determination that we charge that price so that I could live a better life and the customers can have a sustainable company that'll be here to support every need they have, things are a little bit different. They articulate value when they offer solutions, and they have people just have a better understanding of why they pay what they pay.
Mm. And is this an exercise you would take any technician through? Like if you get new staff coming on board, you'd put them through this exercise so they understand why you charge?
We want all of our clientele, all of our customers to have this as part of the onboarding process so
Okay.
that they can understand what our sold hour and sold day concepts are and how we arrived at them, and give them a layer of deeper understanding as to why we charge the prices that we charge.
Mm. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so when you run them through this exercise, it's really great to kind of, and remember, you can have them fill this out and then ask everybody, so what did you guys have for bad debt? And everybody's going to be like, well, I'm not going to have any bad debt. And it just doesn't happen, right? And then you're going to have a guy go, well, what did you have for your salary?
Or your
Well,
callbacks.
all I need is 75 grand to live. Yeah, sure. Say that when you can't find time to buy dinner at night, and then you have to go spend more money. And so the reality is that this puts everybody in a position to understand pricing, puts them in a position to not use their pocketbook to sell to people, and it puts them in a position of transparency.
Mm.
Now, I think the good part is you've got them interactive in the pricing. They're doing the math. They're running through the concepts. Half of them will not even think about tablet expenses. Half of them won't think about 401ks. Half of them won't think about rent and taxes. I mean, we hadn't even talked about taxes. Remember that $100,000 salary that we're paying for, and the 360, what did we say? 316,993. That we haven't even talked about what the government takes of that.
That's right.
And so the reality in business is you have to create a sustainable pricing. You have to have people understand their financial responsibility in their business, every layer in your business. And I'm a firm believer, if the people in my business know margins, they have an understanding of what above the line and below the line means, and they understand how much they sell and what it delivers in a percentage, it's much more manageable and much more the opportunity for them to have a deeper understanding of how we can improve the business and what it means to them is magnified. And that's why we do it. And I believe it's part of the onboarding process. I think you should have visual dashboards all over your business that speak to I used to have in my install, and I used to have 15 HVAC installers. I had one bathroom remodeler, and I had 3 install crews for underground doing mainline replacements. And each and every one of the crews would go out, and they would have underneath their name the gross margin that they delivered for the particular job they did the day before. And the salespeople would also have a same board next to that would list the margin that they delivered on the jobs that were sold that were performed. Now, I want everybody to know that because, quite frankly, I want to know what they deliver to the company. I want them to feel part of something, but I also want them to know that there's a scoreboard,
Sure.
and
Like
you need to
gamify
know.
sort of.
Well, I mean, gamify is one of those things that like you could take it too far and it could get kind of cheesy, right? I really believe that if they have a deeper understanding of the business, guess what would be the worst thing that happens? You lose some guys and they go open their own company because they've got a deeper understanding and they're going to be that way anyway. You're not going to control an entrepreneur. He's going to go out on his own anyway.
Mhm.
The reality is he's going to tell everybody how amazing you are, and you're going to be this guy that creates this kind of depth out into the industry that you provided by creating this great ability for them to understand the financial responsibility of everything they do. I mean, a guy can't come to your business and not perform in the truck. The
Mhm.
truck has to earn. And if it doesn't perform, you got the wrong guy on your team, or you haven't managed them to the success they need to have. So it could be your onboarding process. It could be their ability to understand how and why, or maybe it's a skill set and a talent level you could train. But if it's a willingness, that's a removable thing for me.
Gotcha.
Everything else we could train. We could teach them, we could teach them, we could teach them. But if they got a lack of willingness and they just don't want to buy into kind of this kind of exercise, then they're wrong for your business.
I mean, realistically, it's a different conversation, but you would hope you're not bringing people into your team that have that sort of attitude. But I mean, I suppose doing exercises like this might create a bit of a lens across some of the existing team members, you know?
Well, I think what happens is the thoroughbreds will rise up because the thoroughbreds will just do what they always do, right? Pull back a thoroughbred, never kick a mule. So
Mhm.
you let them run. And then the middle 60, they're the ones that are going to really resonate with this. They're going to improve their positioning. And then the bottom 20 will always be the bottom 20. You just let them, you should be looking to replace them all the time anyway.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
And so this really kind of harks on that middle 60 of your staff, right? Because you all got that middle 60. And if we could create improvements on their conversion rate and average tickets just with a better conversation of money, man, how much more important is that for your business than anything else?
mm. And the scoreboards that you mentioned, the leaderboards, is that something that like would be on visual display when people walk into the office in the morning? So it's like on a TV or something?
Yeah, I mean, like even in my organization, I have internal sales staff, right? And those guys see how many calls they made, how many jobs it booked, and what did it look like, right? So we have guys that do outside sales,
Yeah,
and they make phone calls to people that may click a lead magnet that we have on
sure.
Facebook. They might want somebody wants that lead magnet, we get their information, and then we do a little bit of a reach out. Hey,
Hmm.
would you like to know more? And then they're either booking an appointment or not. We
Hmm.
share all the information. Everybody in the company can look at the board behind them and see how many calls they made, how many people booked a strategy session, and then the salespeople or the growth advisors we have, how many of them had calls, and how many of those led to an event ticket or a membership sale. We get
Yeah,
to see all of it
yeah,
because
good.
it's transparency. It's not always negative, right? Sometimes these guys are doing amazing work and they need to be celebrated. And what better way to celebrate it than to put it on the wall?
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And then, quite frankly, it creates this positioning in you as the business owner or the critical manager to make sure that you're celebrating and make sure you're building the training mechanisms they need to improve because nobody wants to be on the bottom of a visual dashboard.
Hmm.
Everybody
Yeah.
wants to be in the middle or above. Nobody wants to be on the lower end. And when they are, they want to improve. And it's just like everything else. Like we tell our clients, what you focus on improves. And it's the same thing with your employees. If they could focus on the commitment to the pricing, they're going to convert better. They're going to have higher average tickets. And if you could create that and that intimacy with your people, man, you don't need much more motivation. They will go create motivation themselves because they understand the great work that they're doing.
Yeah. Mate, I love it. Well, I hope that was useful to you guys out there. I mean, I'm not sure if any or many of you guys have been through an exercise like that. You probably have to a degree, but you probably most likely have been through that exercise on your own, not with team members. So, yeah, thanks so much, Mike, for sort of, I suppose, helping
I,
people
I've
understand
done
how
it.
you can communicate that to your team members.
Yeah, when I was a young kid, I worked at a sporting goods store. I think we talked about this the last time I was on, and I used to work in the tennis department, and I was strung tennis rackets and all that kind of stuff. And the one thing I learned that day blew my mind. as a young kid. They were giving tennis balls away and losing 10 cents a can when they were selling them. And when the manager told me that we lose 10 cents a can, I spent most of my time putting cans of tennis balls out on the shelves. And like we're losing 10 cents a can. He goes, yes, but when we sell a pair of tennis sneakers, we make $80. When we sell a tennis racket, we make $200. And so the realization of we give that away for this reason, it blew me away, but it gave me a deeper understanding of, why we do some of the things we do from a pricing structure and why the tennis rackets were so expensive, why to restring it was so expensive. So I never felt like when somebody wanted to buy the $700 tennis racket or the $2,500 skis or the $400 bowling ball, I never questioned whether or not that should be that price, because I knew all the other ancillary things we were doing to make that be available to them. And that's what it comes down to. For us to have create this level of sustainability in the services and the goods we provide, we have to have a deeper understanding of how the mechanisms work so we can have confidence and we can articulate that to the client.
Amazing. Well, mate, I think we can wrap that one up here, unless there's anything else you wanted to add.
No, I think it's great. I think everybody should get that in their onboarding process. I think it's a great exercise to do. I know we kind of ran through it pretty fast, but I have a lot of fun when we do it with employees, and then we get everybody's take on it. And boy, some of the numbers they throw out there are laughable, and that's the fun part, right? Because they just don't know what they don't know. And the reality of their ignorance is we can't allow our employees to stay ignorant forever, or we become a product of that ignorance and we don't make money.
Right. All right. Well, Mike, you're from CEO Warrior. The website there is ceowarrior.com. And you're pretty much at CEO Warrior across everything on social, from my understanding. What is that the best place for people to get hold of you?
Yeah, ceowarrior.com. It's got links in there. Anybody can get me on Facebook, Michael Disney. Anybody can hit me up there if they had any questions, or if they just wanted to connect. We do a lot of different things. We've got a bunch of different pages out there and a bunch of things. You'll find me out there. You'll find CEO Warrior everywhere. Now that we're talking about it, if you say it out loud, you'll probably see it in your Facebook stream.
Yeah, not that they're listening, but anyway, all the links and stuff, guys, if you want to get hold of Mike, they'll be in the show notes, so you can head across there and get access to that. But mate, thanks so much for and of course the template that we just ran through. So if you guys want to come and go and download that, you're more than welcome. Mate, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it. And I look forward to chatting to you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you having me out again.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Site Shed podcast. If you like the sound of 30 qualified proposals in the space of 90 days, I just want to recap. Head across to tradie.wiki/offer. Watch the videos, fill in the form, and make sure you book a time to have a chat with me. This is for businesses that are making $50,000 a month in revenue, are located in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or the USA, and you're a trade business or a contractor that works with project-based work. Head across to tradie.wiki/offer. Yes, I realize it sounds too good to be true. Trust me, it works. Do it now. I look forward to chatting to you soon. Ciao.